Good morning, and now we are going to focus on the IELTS speaking part 1. You know, in the IELTS speaking test, there are altogether 3 parts. In the first part is a face-to-face interview with the examiner, which lasts for about 4 to 5 minutes. Sometimes, usually, you have from 10 to 12 questions, and the questions focus on 3 everyday topics, like you are asked about work, study, friends, flowers, newspaper, pets, or hobbies. So in short, those are simple topics with information questions. Sometimes you are asked opinion question too, but it's not too complicated, and you don't have to do a lot of argumentation in this part. The second part of the IELTS speaking test is the long turn. And what do I mean by the long turn? It means you have to speak constantly in about 2 minutes, and you have 1 minute before that to do the preparation. Sounds a little bit scary, isn't it? Don't worry, because it's not going to be as difficult as you may think. So now come to the third part. The third part is also the face-to-face interview with the examiner. And the difference between speaking part 1 and part 3 is the question in part 3 are more advanced and involve more argumentation. So you have to give your opinion, you have to give your idea, you have to give your attitude, and you have to support it with a lot of information, with a lot of details, examples, statistics, or facts. So, in short, you have to do a lot of argumentation in part 3, which is not necessary in part 1. So, part 1 is still the part that you feel the most relaxed, and this is a time for you to get used to the examiner, the speech, the accent of the examiner. So you can feel a little bit relaxed here. Now, speaking about part 1, one thing you have to remember when you talk is do not recycle vocabulary when speaking. Recycle vocabulary means use the word in a question again in your answer. Because if you do that, then the examiner will think that the only word you know is the word that you hear in a question. Now, look at the example. If the question is, do you like music? So, it is not a good idea to start the answer like this. Yes, I do. I like music very much. Wow, you can see that kind of answer is the elementary answer for all the English beginners. Now you are not beginners, is right? So you are going to think how to answer the question in a different way, in a more impressive way. Now, so you can answer like this. Definitely, I love all types of music. Mind you, I'm a big fan of rap, hip-hop, that kinds of things. You see, whenever I'm in a bad mood, listening to favorite songs can really help to balance myself again. So, instead of repeating the verb like, I try to replace it with love, a big fan of. And instead of saying music all the time, I turn it into songs. And if you can remember, in the first lesson, we talked about things like collocation, like linkers, discourse markers, and can you find all those features here? Now, mind you see our discourse markers. To be in a bad mood, this is a kind of expression. To balance myself again, this is collocation. So, those are very good feature of a spoken language. For the language focus today, we are going to go over some phrases that has the same meaning as like and dislike. No, actually it's not. They are not the same, but similar meaning in various situations. And in the future, instead of saying I like pop music, why don't you try saying something like I'm really into music, or I'm quite a big fan of pop music, or I'm totally fascinated by pop music, or I find pop music really interesting. When you want to say dislikes, you can say I'm not really that fond of rap music, or I totally detest rap music. Of course, you can say things like I hate, or I detest, or I can't stand. However, native speakers, when they express the feeling or emotion, they usually add an adverb before those verb or adjective that express emotions or feeling. So instead of saying I can't stand, why don't you try using I really can't stand? I really can't stand. I totally detest. So those phrases are more natural to use. Now, we talk about how to lengthen our answer in part 1 and part 3 in order to gain your coherence score. And one way to do it is to ask yourself the 6 WH questions whenever you come to part 1. What, who, when, where, how, and why. For example, if you ask a question, do you like music? It's not a good answer just to give a yes or no question, I love music, or no, I don't like music at all. Instead, think about the information. Like, what kind of music do you like best? Who is your favorite singer? When you usually listen to music? Where you usually listen to music? And why you like music? So, when you answer yourself the 6 WH questions like this, you can lengthen your answers forever. Now, the topic we are going to focus on today is number 1, work, and number 2, study. And I give you a series of questions and summary answer. And in each answer, I give you some underlined expression. I mean, those kind of expression or idioms or collocation or new vocabulary that you should learn in order to get a score in the vocabulary section. And I want you to check the meaning of these phrases, learn them by heart, and we're going to do a lot of practice with those terms tonight. Now, maybe we can go over some pronunciation of some words. Like right here, we have this word, and we usually say it like currently. Currently. I mean, now, at the moment. This word, previously. Previously. Compared to. Compared to. Rewarding. 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 Socialize with. Socialize with. It means hang out with, to go out together with, to be friends with, socialize with. Colleague. Colleague. Colleagues. Colleagues. Another word for colleague is co-workers, the people who work together with you in the same company. So, colleague. Next, induction day. Induction. Induction. Senior teachers. Senior teachers. Familiarize. Familiarize. This is the verb of familiar with. Next, we can have things like curriculum, 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 pursue, pursue, modules, modules. To know somebody socially, to know somebody socially. Fainted, fainted. A real history buff, a real history buff. Can you guess the meaning of this term? So, a real history buff refers to people who really love something, who is really fascinated about something. So this is a buff. Secure a job, secure a job, secure a job. Specialist, specialist, specialist. Legislation, legislation, legislation. Cases, cases. Exhausting, exhausting, exhausting. At the cutting edge, at the cutting edge, at the cutting edge. Profile, profile, profile. Well, hope you have fun with the lesson and see you tonight.